Well, ladies and gentlemen, here we are. The NBA Finals have concluded. It has been one heck of a year for the NBA, although, there are some things that kind of hampered things at the end. But hey, we made it through. You're going to see a lot from me this week. So every single day this week, you'll have something. Something will be on the plate. We'll have a full 5-course meal on Big Boy Sports. So the Indiana Pacers and the Oklahoma City Thunder were the two teams that made it all the way to the NBA Finals. Not what I expected at all. I think the most popular choice and the one that was going to garner the most, intrigue, was the Boston LA Lakers matchup. But ultimately, that just did not happen. Lakers got packed, because they don't have a center, Luka and LeBron did their best, but ultimately that wasn't enough. Oklahoma City had to get through 3 different sets of challenges to get to the point where they got. They had to go through Memphis and John Morant, a tough out, but ultimately they took care of business. The Thunder then had to take on the Denver Nuggets. And that was, crazy in and of itself, but the Nuggets have basically no bench. So, yeah. And then Oklahoma City had to take on Minnesota, the Timberwolves led by Anthony Edwards. But ultimately, injuries, really kind of dictated a lot of these series, like a lot of them, like the ends of the series, the starts, fantastic. But the ends, not so much. Indiana, on the other hand, had to get through a weirdly, crazier, time. They had to get through a crazier time, and that culminated, with them beating the New York Knicks, and it's crazy that they were able to do that, but they did that, and with Tyrese Halliburton and company, this was unexpected. They beat the Cleveland Cavaliers, a team with the best record in the league, by far this year. They beat the Milwaukee Bucks. And now, guess what? Giannis is gone, basically, for the Bucks. They avoided the Boston Celtics. Let's just keep that 150%. The other team that I really want to talk about, the Boston Celtics, they really, because Jason Tatum got hurt and, New York was going to blitz him anyway. So, that window is now closed. So the bad thing is that, a couple of these games, in these finals were definitely not close. First game was stolen away by Indiana. Let's just keep that 150%. Tyrese Halliburton is a man amongst men. And you didn't expect, one of those games to be stolen because, it just was like, whoa, wait a minute. Hold the phone. Wow. Game 2 wasn't really that close, Game 3 was a lot better. Game 4 was pretty good too. Game 5, Game 6 was kind of a blowout, and then Game 7 was kind of a blowout too. So it was kind of a mix of stuff in the series, but with the way Halliburton played, I gotta hand it to him. He was injured in Game 2. Then he tore his ACL. So another ACL tear. Jason Tatum has an ACL tear too. And the guys that he took with him to this finals, Pascal Siakam played amazing. Andrew Nembhard, Aaron Nesmith, Miles Turner, Ben Mathurin, Obi Toppin, TJ McConnell. This Pacers team, had some guys who were unexpected, and they made it all the way, and they did their thing. But ultimately, in the end, even with guys like Siakam and McConnell, who, if the Pacers had won, I would have given the MVP to one of those guys, over Halliburton, because Halliburton had some bad games in the finals. Let's keep it 150%. Indiana was resilient. Oklahoma City was just as resilient, to overcome, the stigma of the media. The media was downright awful in this finals. I'm just going to be real with you. Thank goodness Inside the NBA is covered. Thank goodness. Even though I don't, really watch, pregame shows. I don't watch pregame shows really at all. Like I just see the funny bits from Inside the NBA because they just kind of do their own thing. Shaq, Chuck, Kenny, and Ernie. That's a fearsome foursome right there. But they do their thing, and I mean, it's way better than hearing Stephen A. yelling, Kendrick Perkins, being Kendrick Perkins, just kind of just being there. Bob Myers is probably the best of that bunch, And don't get me started on DB, just like, bro, what are you doing here? What are you doing here? We needed JVG and Mark Jackson back, man. I mean, Richard Jefferson's fine, but we need JVG and Mark Jackson back. And ABC's gonna have the finals every single year still under this contract, this new contract. And that's not even the craziest thing that happened. Kevin Durant got traded to Houston. Like, KD is still performing, at a higher rate. I don't know what people are saying. Oh, well, he fell off and yada, yada, yada. No. I don't think you guys are paying attention. That man can still put up 30, 40 points a night if he wants to. He puts up at least 20 every night. So that's good for Houston, I mean, Durant's rocket. Crazy stuff. But all right. Where do I go next? Because, the NBA is in a new era where they're going to be at, and this new age, the NBA is going to have to focus on the guys that, are just doing their thing. These new young and upcoming stars in Oklahoma City and Cleveland, proved, even though I didn't think Oklahoma City or Cleveland would make it that far, Cleveland proved me right. Oklahoma City proved me wrong. The marketing of the young stars is what is going to have to happen. NBC, they're going to have Tuesday night games. They're going to have Sunday night games. ABC's got to step it up with their Saturday and Sunday offerings. We have Amazon in the mix too, offering their, big package. And things are just going to have to be a lot different, come, October. Things are going to have to be very, very different in the NBA. And it has to start at the top. Adam Silver needs to focus. Adam Silver and company need to focus. We need expansion. We need those two teams in Vegas and Seattle. Just give them to us right now. That's all we need to do. Just give it to us. Now, I want to direct my attention to the Big 3. This league has been around for 8 years now. And I've always been, apprehensive to it because it's 3-on-3 basketball. But, it's kind of like pickup basketball. And, a lot of the guys in the league are just like, whoa, why are you still playing basketball? You are 30s. You are 30-something years old. You are over 35 playing basketball. What are you still doing? You should have been retired by now. You have guys like Lance Stevenson and Dwight Howard getting into scuffles. You have guys like Malik Beasley, ISO Joe Johnson. Crazy stuff. And this is actually pretty entertaining. The scores only go up to 50. You only play up to 50. You have the 4-point shot from, like 3 different parts of the court. You have 14-second shot clock. There's no game clock or anything like that. It's just a shot clock. You have to get the 25 to get through the first half, and then 50 to win the game. You have guys like Paul Millsap in this league, Glenn Rice, Corey Brewer, Jason Richardson, Jeremy Pargo. Crazy stuff. You have guys like George Gervin, coaching, like, wow. this league still exists. You know, like it's one of those summer leagues where it's like, what are you doing? You know, the Big Three went to city-based teams this year, so naturally they gave a team to Dallas, which means naturally I'm probably going to the AAC in August for the playoffs. Well, at least the first part of the playoffs anyway. I'm just going to keep it 150% with you. I'm probably going. It's just, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I'm going. You know, I'm going. So, 10-week regular season. We've already been through 2 weeks of the season. The Detroit Amps, you know, Joe Johnson got hurt in this last game against Miami, you know, on Sunday. But, you know, the Amps were able to finish off with a beautiful dunk, you know. And they are the only team that is 2-0. Everybody else is 1-1. The DMV trilogy, which, you know, a lot of guys, you know, kind of shuffling around and stuff like that. Yeah, DMV is 0-2. The history of this league has been kind of, you know, intriguing to say the least. And, you know, maybe I'll go back one day and do like a little history lesson or something like that, but I don't want to. I probably don't want to do that. So, last but not least, right now, the WNBA is looking pretty good. Pretty good for a league that, you know, has a expansion team in the Golden State Valkyries, which is doing really good. Really good. The Valkyries are doing really good. Crazy. They have a local TV deal. Of course, if you have Puffer, you know, if you're one of those people that subscribe to Puffer, you know, you can watch a lot of Valkyries games. You know, that Ion deal has gotten renewed. So, you know, that adds to the 3 partners I mentioned with the NBA for the W. And that last one will probably be like CBS again, which they actually flexed the game in on July the 6th, which is crazy. That wasn't initially on the schedule, but they got it in there. So, but right now, the Minnesota Lynx, who returned all 5 of their starters from last year, led by Mephisha Collier, you know, 12-1. Minnesota is the absolute favorite to win the title. And, you know, I neglected to mention them, you know, the last time I talked to WNBA. I neglected to mention them. I probably should have mentioned them because they have been on a tear this season. They only have 1 loss. Good team. You know, the New York Liberty, also very good. The Atlanta Dream with Brittany Griner playing actually good basketball. Last year, she was on Phoenix and she just was very inconsistent. Like, what? What do you mean? What do you mean, bro? What do you mean? The Fever, you know, 6-7. The Las Vegas Aces, also 6-7. Not what you expected. The Fever, you know, had a excuse because Caitlin Clark was injured for 4 games. You know, the Aces, Asia Wilson Company. I'm sitting here confused. Like, this is supposed to be one of the best teams in the league right here. I'm sitting here confused. But yeah, the Storm are doing good. The Mercury are doing really good. Again, like I said, the Dream are doing good. You know, everybody else, we're still kind of waiting because, again, a lot of teams only played like 13, 14 games so far. We have a long ways to go. We have like 30 games to go for most teams. So, like, and the bad teams are just bad. Like, Angel Reese and the Chicago Sky, terrible. The Sun, all their star players are gone. Love of the. I mean, man, that Bonner Thomas combo ain't hitting no more, is it, Connecticut? And you might be moving somewhere else. So, Portland's about to name their team in like July or something like that. Sometime, I think. Paige Beckers, you know, and the Dallas Wings, you know, they're 3-12. Their head coach is not great. The guy that they hired is not great, but, you know, it's fine. You know, the Wings are still rebuilding. The Sparks, I just don't understand. You have the Erica Hamby, bro. How are y'all still bad? It doesn't make any sense. But, yeah, the bottom 4 teams are really, really, really stinky. Like, you know, the Wings, I can kind of, you know, what's the word? I can kind of excuse a little bit. But the Sky, the sun, the Sparks, well, especially the Sky and the Sun, they stink, bro. That's terrible. Like, there is no way. How do you have Camila Cardoso and Angel Reese, and you still can't win games, bro? It doesn't make any sense. It just doesn't. But yeah, there's going to be some key games coming up over the next couple of weeks. The Commissioner's Cup is going to be the Liberty and the Fever, because they beat the Liberty, actually. So it'll be the Indiana Fever and the Minnesota Lynx in the Commissioner's Cup in July. But honestly, that's next week, and I don't really care for the Commissioner's Cup like that. I just do not care for things like the Commissioner's Cup or, any kind of in-season tournament type things. Those kind of stink. It doesn't matter regardless of the sport, just kind of stinks. But yeah, a lot of stuff to kind of, cleanse the palate. A lot of basketball over the next couple of weeks. Going to be watching, to see how things shake out. There's going to be more NBA, stuff like, Bane, Desmond Bane got traded to, I think, somewhere. I forgot where. Yeah, congratulations to the Oklahoma City Thunder on winning an NBA chip. Their first title. I don't count Seattle because that's a different place. This is Oklahoma City's first title. This is the city of Oklahoma City's first title, Yeah, so I'm going to get on up out of here. I'll see y'all for This Week in Indoor Football tomorrow. We got some AF1 playoffs to talk, some NAL potential. We got some, some IFL, and of course TAL too. So it's going to be a good, intriguing, next couple days on the channel. You're going to see some stuff from me that you might have not thought you were going to see. Like I said, today, the BIG3 got me intrigued because of that fight, and I was like, I was already intrigued because they brought a team to Dallas. So, I was going to be, interested, but I had to see games for myself, and I was very much impressed. It's not the greatest basketball, but it's basketball all the same, and you don't have to, go crazy with the amount of points, everything. You got to go to 50. So I'm going to get on out of here, y'all, and that'll do it for me today. See ya.